Welcome back. Today, we're watching Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, a movie where Tom Cruise literally runs down the side of the tallest building on Earth. But before that, we have to watch this agent make the worst decisions of his life. Let's get into it. Our story begins with a guy sprinting across a roof, because taking the stairs is for absolute losers. He does a sick parkour jump, who steals his phone and leaves him for dead. Meanwhile, in a Russian prison, our main man, Ethan Hunt, is aggressively throwing rocks. Luckily, his tech guy Benji is outside hacking the mainframe, which accidentally opens every single cell block, starting a massive prison riot. Ethan casually strolls out of his cell like he's browsing a grocery store aisle, before effortlessly folding a Russian guard like a cheap lawn chair. Instead of escaping, he decides to go back and save a random Russian prisoner. Because apparently, Ethan just loves collecting strays. They jump down a massive hole and finally meet up with the extraction team in the sewers. Time to get to work. So, right after escaping a Russian gulag, Ethan gets shoved into a van and immediately handed his next suicide mission. They need to break into the Kremlin. Naturally, their foolproof plan involves dressing up as Russian generals, with the most aggressively fake mustaches imaginable. I mean, look at this thing. It looks like a caterpillar died on his lip. But hey, it gets them past the front door and into the secure archives. Once inside, they pull out the greatest spy gadget in cinematic history. A giant iPad that projects a fake empty hallway to fool the guard. Fun fact, this projection screen wasn't just lazy CGI. The props department actually built a massive, functional optical illusion rig for the actors to interact with, proving that sometimes practical effects are just infinitely cooler than green screens. Ethan sneaks into the secure vault, ready to grab the files, only to find absolutely nothing. Cobalt already beat them to it, which is incredibly embarrassing for the world's greatest spy agency. You had one job, Ethan. Meanwhile, outside the vault, a random guard drops his pen. And because the universe hates Ethan Hunt, the pen rolls right into their magical screen. The illusion glitches out, revealing two very guilty-looking Americans standing in a Russian stronghold. This is the exact moment you realize your stealth run just turned into survival horror. Alarms blare, the gig is up, and our heroes have to sprint out of there. Naturally, Ethan speed walks out of the Kremlin like he just remembered. He orders the guards to shut the gate, instantly shedding his Russian general disguise to reveal a Bruce Springsteen t-shirt. Because nothing says inconspicuous spy like repping the boss in the middle of Moscow. He steps out into Red Square just in time for the entire Kremlin. He tries to outrun the shockwave, but physics wins. He wakes up in a Russian hospital, handcuffed to a bed, while a very angry agent promises him a lifetime of gulag food. But since handcuffs are basically just suggestions to Ethan, fun fact, Tom Cruise actually hung outside a real building in Prague. Must be heavily medicated. The Russian agent spots him, so Ethan uses a leather belt to zipline down a wire onto a moving van. He gracefully face plants onto the cobblestone, proving gravity is the one enemy he can't outsmart. After stealing some clothes, he gets picked up by the IMF secretary, completely disavowing the agency. And just to make things worse, their car is immediately ambushed by Russian hitmen and sent plunging into the freezing river. So after surviving a freezing river, Ethan and Brant casually stroll into a Russian. They find a secret IMF train car because of course the government hides multi-million-dollar tech behind a rusty door. Inside, they meet up with Benji and Jane. The secretary is dead. The IMF is officially disavowed under Ghost Protocol. Fun fact, the term Ghost Protocol wasn't actually in the original script. Tom Cruise insisted on it because it sounded way cooler than Mission Impossible 4. Cobalt's goon is buying nuclear launch codes in Dubai. So the newly unemployed, they plan to fake the hotel rooms and trick the buyers. But the hotels Server room is locked down tighter than my bank account. The only way in? From the outside. Ethan slaps on some experimental sticky gloves and casually starts climbing the tallest building on planet Earth. And yes, Tom Cruise actually climbed the real Burj Khalifa for this. The insurance company refused to cover it, so Cruise literally fired them and found a new one. That is unhinged billionaire behavior. Naturally, because IMF tech is notoriously garbage, one of the gloves starts. Imagine being 130 floors up and your only lifeline runs out of battery. Like a cheap iPhone. He has to literally punch his way through the glass to survive. Naturally, after punching a hole in the tallest building on Earth. Meanwhile, Benji hacks the hotel servers and literally swaps the room numbers on the doors. It's a clever trick to force the buyers and sellers into the wrong rooms. But the assassin arrives early, meaning Ethan has to take the express route down. And by express route, I mean he literally sprints down the outside of the glass into the Burj Khalifa's floors and windows to rig the safety cables. Ethan runs out of rope and takes a massive, desperate leap of faith. He absolutely face plants into the window, proving that gravity always wins. This is exactly why you always double-check your rope measurements, people. Basic Boy Scout stuff. Brant manages to catch him by the ankle right before he becomes a permanent part. Once he's safely inside, the team realizes their high-tech mask-making machine has completely fried itself. Yes, the foolproof plan of just hoping the international terrorists have terrible memory. I'm sure playing a high-stakes game of charades with nuclear extremists will go perfectly fine. Unsurprisingly, the fake exchange goes completely sideways the second the bad guys realize. A massive brawl breaks out, and the assassin decides she's done playing nice. But Jane is not exactly the forgiving type. She turns the hotel room into a wrestling ring, delivering a beatdown so severe it probably violated international law. And just to make sure the message sticks, she literally kicks the assassin. Meanwhile, Ethan is busy proving that he has absolutely zero self-preservation instincts. He sprints out of the hotel and chases the villain directly into a massive, blinding sandstorm that looks like the end of the world. Around the set, meaning Tom Cruise was basically breathing dirt for weeks, just to make this chase look authentic. Method acting at its dustiest. Since running blind isn't working, Ethan steals a convertible because when you're in a zero visibility sandstorm, you definitely want the roof down to catch all that debris. Using a tracking app that somehow still has a signal in this apocalyptic weather, he plays the most dangerous game of Marco Polo ever and just full sends his car. So, after surviving a literal sandstorm, the team meets up with an arms dealer to restock their completely depleted inventory before hopping on a private jet to Mumbai. They need to find a billionaire playboy named Breakout Nath, because he holds the override codes to a military satellite they desperately need. The plan? Jane has to seduce the billionaire to get the launch codes, while Brant has to drop into a heavily guarded server room to hack the mainframe. They arrive at the Mumbai party in a flashy BMW concept car. Jane immediately goes to work, and Breakout Nath takes the bait instantly. Fun fact, Anil Kapoor, who plays the billionaire, wanted to be in this movie. Honestly, getting paid to be seduced by Paula Patton is a contract I'd sign blindfolded. Meanwhile, Brant is wearing a magnetic suit, preparing to jump down a massive ventilation shaft. Because apparently, using normal doors is strictly forbidden when you work for the IMF. Benji assures him the suit will catch him before he hits the spinning blades, and Brant takes the leap of faith. Amazingly, the magnets actually work. Back at the party, Jane has successfully lured Breakout Nath into his private art room. Meanwhile, Brant starts carefully lowering himself toward the server, sweating bullets because one wrong move means he becomes a human smoothie. Breakout Nath thinks he's about to have the absolute night of his life, completely unaware that he's just a stepping stone for international espionage. Naturally, Jane uses her persuasive assets to extract the override code from the billionaire. Meanwhile, Hendricks successfully uploads the launch sequence to a Russian submarine. Ethan chases the madman into a massive, fully automated parking garage. Fun fact, this entire garage wasn't CGI. It was a practical set built in Vancouver. Hendricks realizes he is losing the hand-to-hand fight, so he makes a drastic choice. Imagine hating someone so much you yeet yourself off a building just to win. But Ethan isn't about to take the stairs. He hops into a BMW and drives it straight off the drop to catch up to the briefcase. BMW actually provided one-of-a-kind i8 concept cars for this movie, which the crew had to treat like fragile glass, unlike Tom Cruise here. Ethan crawls from the wreckage and smashes the abort button at the last second. The deactivated nuke harmlessly dings the Transamerica Pyramid like a giant, very expensive lawn dart. I'm sure the building manager is absolutely thrilled about the new skylight. With the world saved, the team regroups at a bar in Seattle for some beers. They even get a surprise visit from Luther, proving you can't have an IMF mission. Luther finishes his beer and dips out. Ving Rhames actually only got this tiny cameo at the end because of a salary dispute. He demanded his usual fee, so the studio literally paid him just to drink a beer and immediately leave. Legendary hustle. Anyway, Brandt finally confesses his dark secret to the group. He was the agent assigned to protect Ethan's wife in Croatia, and he failed. But Ethan hits him with the ultimate. It was just a prank. Bro, turns out Ethan faked his own wife's death just to get thrown into a Russian gulag for a side quest. Brandt has been carrying soul-crushing guilt for years, and Ethan just casually drops this traumatic info over a cold Heineken. We even get visual confirmation as Ethan spots his totally not dead wife across the harbor. They share a cute little smile from a safe, non-assassination distance. But because Ethan is allergic to vacations, his phone immediately gives him a new mission. He puts his hood up and vanishes into the fog like an edgy theater kid. Well guys, that's it. If you enjoyed watching me suffer through this masterpiece of bad decisions, like and subscribe. I'm going to therapy. See you in the next one.